I can't believe it. It's crazy. I literally walked out of my closet and changed my shirt because I didn't want to wear black. And I thought green would be nice today.
I match your wall. So how is that for kindred spirits? So actually, Ricky, I haven't told you this story, but I just had my colors done. This amazing woman in the UK does this online thing, and I had my color analysis done. So you're going to see me wearing more color, which I'm very excited about.
I'm so delighted, mostly because now we match, and probably we need a choreographed dance and something else. Okay, wait, I think we're live.
We're live. So hi.
Hey, welcome to Shooting the It in a Skirt. I'm Ricky Pozzanelli.
I'm Carrie Lynn Shaw, and we finally got this podcast out of our living rooms, and we're live. So thank you so much for joining us.
So I'm a growth strategist. I work with mid-market companies, and I help founders and leaders of those mid-market companies move from heads down tactical troubleshooting to heads up vision and action.
I love that for you and for your
people. It's so funny to introduce ourselves to each other.
I know it's very weird to introduce myself to you, but to this beautiful audience. So I'm Carrie Lynn, and I'm a negotiation strategist. Some people will say expert. I don't love the word expert. I help people negotiate their next salary package and exit with one as well. And it's the most fun I've ever had in my life. And I'm thrilled about that. But that actually doesn't matter, because what does matter is that between Ricky and I, we have solved all the problems of the world in our off-the-cuff conversations, and we are bringing this to you. And, look, we do this in our showers. Sometimes we shower. She lives in Seattle. I live in New York. We're all over the world.
Not the AirPods. Not the AirPods, the attached.
Yes, this was an important conversation we had recently because I told Ricky that we don't need her brain to fry. So she does now have the wired ones. So whether we're having coffee, wherever we are in the world, we have these conversations daily, and we literally do not solve all the problems of the world, but solve the challenges that we're facing in our lives. And look, we met about a year and a half ago in our 50s, and we look at each other sometimes and we just can't imagine how we lived all these years without each other, which is a testament to know you just never know when you will potentially find your people. And that is really mind-blowing to me and has just been one of the greatest blessings. So we are launching this podcast with what we consider to be one of the most important topics, networking, because we believe it to be a critical factor to building a fulfilling life with connection, community, and communication, and believe that every interaction is an opportunity to engage and potentially be life-changing. Look at us.
I mean, look at us. Example. Right. Okay. So the thing I'm going to say, though, is I have to tell you, I think the genesis of this is great, but what's really weird, and I know we do this on the phone, and I know we do it via Zoom, and sometimes in person when we can get our butts in the same city at the same time. But it's funny not to be facing you because we're not in the same room. And I know if we were facing each other, we'd be like, and it feels a little weird. So I think my ask of everybody that's listening or watching is bear with us. This is the first time we've actually done this. I flew to New Jersey, New York, last year in November for a client, and KL and I actually whiteboarded what we wanted to do. And it had a different name and it had a different feel, but I can't believe we're actually sitting here. And while it feels weird and probably my armpits are a little sweaty, I don't know how yours are, but I have been anticipating this day for so freaking long. I can't believe it. So
what was actually, I'm trying to remember what the name was of our podcast. And when I renovated my office, I pulled down our sticky pages that we had, and I actually threw them out, and not because it wasn't an important whiteboard session, but it wasn't the right time. So do you remember? I remember the second part. Do you remember what our name was?
Oh, yeah, of course. You can't do this alone.
And why would you want to?
Right.
Right. So, you can't do life alone. It's not as fun.
No, it's not fun. And I mean, you did, right? You did that podcast. You tested it out because in fairness to you, you were like, let's hold on what we want to do because I need to get the lay of the land. I need to see what it feels like to do a podcast, to show up with a microphone and all that. And I've spent the last year just being interviewed, right?
Yeah.
It's a really big deal. But the truth is, no matter what we called it, we wanted to do something together because it's way more freaking fun than just reading what you wrote. And I know a lot of people have been very successful about it, but I think it's these types of conversations that change the dynamic of your life. And, you know, you said it, right? Every interaction is an opportunity to engage and potentially be life-changing. I don't know what I did for the last 50 plus years of my life. I mean, I do. It's very clear. I have a resume, but like this friendship and this community that we've built is just, I don't even know what to say. It warmed, my heart is huge right now.
Yeah. And it continues to build, and all these beautiful people listening who maybe haven't found their community yet and who want to be part of this group. And you will find your people if you put yourself out there. And, you know, super interesting. So you're right. I did launch a podcast earlier this year, and I was in business mode. In 2025. It was all biz. And I was like, put the fun aside, as much fun as it is for Ricky and I to think about shooting the shit together and sharing that with the world. My priority was the salary bump, the career bump, and the exit bump, this beautiful business that I created. So I launched a podcast called The Career Bump. I dipped my toe into it. And there was a few things about it that I didn't love. And that was that I was talking to myself. It was a solo podcast. It wasn't fun. It wasn't engaging. It was good content, I hope, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I put it on hold. Who knows if it will ever resurrect? And I realized that I want to have more fun in my life. And I think we can't always be all biz. And you and I are already doing this. And the live aspect of this is actually one of the interesting components. So we're going live, and we're going to shoot this out to all of our channels. New YouTube channel called Shooting the Shit in a Skirt, LinkedIn, everywhere. And we'll pull that content throughout our other channels. But the interesting part is that we didn't want it to be overproduced. So this idea of doing it with a production studio, when we launch it out to Apple Podcast and to Spotify, it will be with an intro and an outro, phenomenal music, and just
don't you worry. I mean, we are.
And that's it.
Snickety with that kind of stuff. But this is just, you know what? This is a great place for us to give it a shout, give it a try, give it air, and make it ours, and really also make it yours. Like, we felt like there was so much goodness happening in these conversations that we really wanted to share it largely. So this is how we're doing it. I think when I looked at the attendance, there were like 45 people who had signed up. Oh my God, really? You people want to listen to us? I'd say right on, right on. I mean, we have a lot to say. Yeah. And we hope, right, that you will take something away with each and every episode. So we have, so you know, because we're both strategically minded, and we're also, you know, we like to have fun. It is my 5th core value, which I dialed up this year. While you were dialing up your business, I was dialing up having more fun. So it's been a great like overlap of all of it. But I have a stat, and I just want to share this with you guys because, yes, this is our conversation, but we also prepared a little bit because we thought it was important that we also are really smart about what we're talking about, because we can shoot the shit all day. So this is a stat I love, and I know Kale does too, because we've talked about it ad nauseum over the last couple of weeks. 1 in 6 people will tell you they are lonely. Wow. That's a lot. I'm going to tell you, I am not one of those 6, and I don't think KL is either. And I don't think the pandemic helped us, and I don't think having our phones in front of us helps us. So this is really about peeling away those layers of loneliness and finding your folks, mostly because, and I, you know, this is why I originally went to LinkedIn, and we'll talk about this when we talk about our stories at some point, but like 80% of jobs are filled through networking. And in part and parcel, what started this and how we changed the title is that the fun fact about me is I've only gotten 1 job with a resume, which was more than 2 decades ago. I actually submitted a resume to a classified ad and got the job. And everything else has come from
the classified ad. I mean, does anyone even know what a classified ad is?
So it's about networking. It's about who you surround yourself. So really what I like to say is if connection is the bridge to being less lonely and creates opportunity, why do we keep burning those bridges? Why do we keep looking down at our phones? It's incredible when you go into a room, right? Melissa Glick and I just hosted a Sonoran social in Scottsdale 2 nights ago. It's a big week, people. I've had lots of sweaty armpits this whole week, and it's only Wednesday, but nobody had their phone out. In fact, nobody had their phone out. We didn't even take pictures. And if you saw my post this morning, Kale, I know you did because you're coming to the next one. I took 2 pictures and they were both completely blurry. Like I never even looked at my phone. It didn't feel like the right place because I wanted to engage and I wanted to find friends and I wanted to build community because basically you are the company you keep. Yeah. Right. And you and I were talking, and this is your stat that you love about the 5 people. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. And, when we talk about networking, and you said 80% of jobs are found via networking. I use that stat every single day in posts, in conversations with clients, because a lot of people, and perhaps in a different job market, you were getting more calls from recruiters, or you were able to see what was on the job boards and post and get some calls back. That is not happening today, but I actually don't believe that this stat is that much different than it has been for years.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's still true.
The way you meet your people, whether it is that you're trying to build community and connection, or whether it is you're looking to open the door to a job, your career is not linear, and throughout your entire life, you are building these people so that who knows what pops 10 years down the road, they tap you and call you and say, hey, I think you'd be really interesting for this role. I'd love to introduce you. It's all part and parcel to that whole ecosystem, if you will. Yeah. So we should never not be networking. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But in addition,
is that ABN? Always be networking.
ABN. I love a good acronym. KL. I worked for GM, BMW. Everything in my life has been an acronym. So that's phenomenal. Let's do it.
Okay, then we're going to add it.
It'll be our hashtag. So the reality is you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So in other words, your network literally shapes your entire life, your outcomes, your financial future, potential jobs. Who knows? You could find your partner, your best friends. It literally shapes all of your outcomes. And it is not just who you know, but it's who they know. And it's who they know. And it's who they know. Yeah. I believe that you and I are super connectors. It's one of my favorite things to do. I know it is for you as well. I don't ask for permission. I just send a DM. You need to meet so-and-so.
Yeah. I mean, you actually told me on the phone. I remember I was sitting on my deck in Seattle and I said, is it okay if I introduce you to X, Y, and Z? And you said to me, which I freaking loved, you don't have to ask. I know whomever you're sending me is going to be a quality human being. Yeah. So if you think about the 5 people that you surround yourself with, and I have a lot more than that, and I know you do too, like great people. Don't have to ask permission because you know what's going to be coming your way. Now, let me be clear. There have been a few duds over the year and a half, but that's anywhere. That's in anything. That
and duds, come on. I mean,
and duds, right?
Because they connected with me, and I loved, loved the conversation. They might not be your people. Your people might not be my people. The fact is, I think opening doors for people is really the point, and extending this beautiful community that we have to all the people that we meet. And those 5 people, obviously you can have more than that. But I think if you want to have quality, you need to be really thoughtful about the company that you're keeping. And are these people challenging you? Are they raising you up? Are they teaching you something? Are they bringing you down? Are they negative? And they're blocking you from growth, like really being thoughtful about that. I have a Gen Z daughter, as I know you have a daughter and a son, and it's something we talk about a lot. Like who you surround yourself with is really important. It's either going to push you forward, propel you forward, or it's going to hold you back. So what does it actually really mean when we think about building better company? Part of that is on you. Right? It's not just about meeting these people. You have to be invested. You have to be invested on how you make people feel. You have to be invested. I always say you can only control two things: how you show up and how you treat others. That's it. None of the rest of it is within our control. As much as we try to control all these outcomes, Renee DeVore has taught me this so deeply. And you and I have talked about this a million times, that we have to learn to let go of the outcome, because those are not in our control.
Go, right? It's about the process.
Exactly.
Let me interrupt you for just a second, because there's a book I read when I was getting ready to blow up my career, and it's called Anti-Fragile. And while I can't remember the name of the author right now, he talks about a couple of things. One is jumping into the void, which is exactly what I did, as you know, in 2019, right? I had no job. I didn't know what I was going to do, and it was fabulous. But the main point of the book, and why it's called Anti-Fragile, is because the entire world is in chaos at all times. And there's really, you don't know what's going to happen in the next 30 seconds. We had no idea how this was going to go. And I exited from the studio right when I was trying to go live. So, right, we do have no control. So it's how you behave and how you treat others are the only things truly that you can control. And there's a lot of freedom in that, quite honestly.
There is, if you're conscious about it. So I think this is, conscious leadership was something that I always was really thoughtful about when creating leadership programs and things over the years. But it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart as well. Is how do I want to make people feel? They're going to feel how they want to feel, but I'm going to show up as the most authentic, vulnerable human that I can.
Right. And look them in the eye and listen to what they have to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, open doors for them and hope that gets reciprocated. And if it doesn't, you get to evaluate, are these my people or not my people? But I think showing up with kindness was always something really important to me. It's an interesting segue, which I wasn't thinking about talking about today, which Ricky and I, we're like squirrels.
Welcome to our phone calls.
We go all over the place. But when I was in corporate, I'm a very heart-centered leader. And over the last year and a half, I've done a tremendous amount of work on myself. And I used to struggle. I worked with mostly men. So I worked in automotive for 20 years. I used to downplay my heart-centeredness and think that I needed to lead more with my head because that's what they might have wanted from me. So I'm dealing with engineers, very structured, very corporate environments where I didn't always feel like I belonged in that room, or I didn't always feel like the smartest person in the room. And so I would constantly be in battle between my head and my heart. I was always very kind, but this work that I've done on myself to actually crack this open, be like, listen, I got heart everywhere on my chart. It is everywhere. It is oozing out of me. And I am a better human when I show up as that full, authentic, crack open self. If that works for you, great. If it doesn't,
did you say crack?
I said crack.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
I said crack. And so my people will find me, and that's just been extremely interesting. So anyway, being really conscious about how you show up. And then
it's funny because I come from the agency world, and I worked for people that did that, right? They were one way at work and one way at home. And as you all know, anybody who's listening to this, including you, Kale, I show up with my heart on my sleeve every day. Take it or leave it. This is what you get, whether you like it or not. Now, I also had the benefit of working in a super creative industry for, the better part of my career, more than 2 decades. So I could be that. Right. I could just be me and I could just show up, but I wrestled with it a lot. I remember when I got laid off from my first agency job after 3 years, and I liked my boss and I respected her a ton. But what I learned is she was someone completely different at work than she was at home. And I really liked the at home. So I really took advantage of it because she got laid off a few months after I did. And that's when we became friends. But I agree with you. If you look at my chart, whatever chart, right? Whether it's the Myers-Briggs or it's the Enneagram or Strength Finders, it's all lead with heart, lead with heart, lead with heart, lead with heart first. And I met you when you were coming out, or when you were starting a huge transition phase in your life. I think we shout out to Renee just one more time because Kale was working with Renee, and then I started working with Renee because I saw the transformation that Kale was going through. And even even though our challenges, right, were completely different, there was some overlap in there. And I wanted some of that good juju too, right? I always lead with heart, and that's where I start no matter what. And I might even argue, and we've talked about this, like sometimes it might be a detriment to me as well, right? Because the shadow piece of that is that I always want to be liked, always, always. And I think it's hindered me in some ways. I know we're going off topic, but welcome.
No, it's actually a super important conversation. I think I wouldn't say that I showed up as two different people, because it's interesting. I've told several people throughout this transformation that I had, when I realized that heart was everywhere, and then I was connecting some of these dots, like, oh, I could have showed up even more as me if I wasn't so worried about what the people around the room table were thinking. So it's a downplay. It wasn't a mask. But when I tell people this that knew me in that corporate world, they're like, Kale, you were the most heart-centered leader I had ever met. So it wasn't that. I think a lot of people realized it was my own internal battle that being able to now sort of take that, not mask off, but like to be able to really step into that and know this is really who I am. It has been game changing. But you've started to talk a little bit about your story, and I'd love to dive in a little bit more for the audience. So tell us a bit more, besides blowing up your career and your agency work, just give us a little tidbit, your little talent reel.
My little talent reel. So agencies. And really, it was a hard place for me to leave and decide to leave, because that was really the launching point for what I do now. So I'm incredibly grateful for it. But for anybody that's worked in creative agencies, and I come from the brand world, not the advertising world, they are different. I didn't know that in the 90s, but they are completely different. It's glitz and glam and A-level clients. I worked for some amazing agencies over the years. And the beauty of working for agencies is that you really get to create your own path. It is the Wild West, and it is a fantastic place to be. But what I realized in 2019 was that there was nowhere else for me to go, right? I was in my early 50s. I had been working with an executive coach, and I knew what my triggers were for leaving. And mostly it was freedom. So I blew it up. My intention that year was courage. I took advantage of that, acts large and small of courage, and I jumped into the void, as I mentioned earlier. And it was incredible. And I spent 6 months figuring out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, how I wanted to show up. I'm a total late bloomer, you guys, like a total late bloomer. I did not even start my agency career until I was 32, right? So, it takes me a little while, which is okay. Because even though my brand essence is blind enthusiasm, I will jump in first. When it comes to making decisions about what's going to serve me well and serve me best and serve the others around me, I do take time to think about it. I blew it up. I went to work in-house as a growth strategist for a company down in the Bay Area, and then COVID happened. So I was there for about 2 years. The purpose of me being there was to help them get ready for sale. And again, did I mention COVID happened? So I ended up departing from that role. I took another couple months off, and I had a very good friend of mine who knows me well tell me to stop being afraid and start my own business. And so I did. A little bit of background about my growth strategy stuff is that because I worked at an agency, my last agency, for almost 15 years, part of my role, and in partnership with my head of client service, was to actually help our account directors strategically grow their relationships with our top level clients. So we created this framework. So I took that framework knowing it would work for mid-market companies, because if it works for Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies, it's certainly going to work for these smaller founder-led, leader-led organizations without all the politics. And that's really how I created my business. But the kicker here is this. What I realized is that my network, even though it felt like it was expansive and huge, it was creative strategists, writers, designers. And it was amazing, and it was global, and it was incredible. And so if I needed anything, I could just make a phone call. But I needed more. And I know I needed more professional badassery in my life, right? Period, full stop. And so I did what everybody does. And I went to LinkedIn and I posted that I was starting my own company, and that was it. And then I joined Chief because I didn't know what to do with LinkedIn, and I didn't really know how to expand my community that I'd created. Even though I'm a networker, even though my superpower is making connections, I didn't know how to go beyond my narrow aperture. And so I joined Chief. And from Chief, I met the Seattle Chiefs. And I got on the WhatsApp thing. And then KL, this is where it happened. I met somebody in Chief from DIY Influence and named Julie Morris and Melissa Cohen. And they were running a personal brand boot camp. And so I joined. Because what that personal brand boot camp did is it taught me how to use LinkedIn. It taught me how to expand community. It taught me the beauty of what that online presence can do for you. Case in point, right? I could name on both hands off the top of my head right now the people that I've met that have changed my life since I went onto LinkedIn, since I joined DIY Influence, and then ultimately joined the Outlier Project. It has been exponential. And my community, I mean, I give myself a gold medal and a giant pat on the back because there are some fabulous people in it. It's expanded exponentially, if I can say that. Can I say that?
You can say that. And it continues to expand.
And it continues to. Monday's a great example of that. I'm at 25, okay, maybe like 19, because I didn't know, I knew 5 people who were coming very well. But it just continues to expand, and we continue to find new stages to create and open the aperture and bring more people in. And I'm going to say something to you, and you know this, it's not too much. I still, at this ripe age, want to keep adding, want to keep growing, want to keep learning. And the only way that I can do that is if I keep connecting. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to get to the law of diminishing returns, because I'm not seeing it. I keep getting inspired. I keep feeling the energy. I keep being able to make impact on others in a way that I never thought possible before. Okay, so that's my talent reel. I think you should tell yours, because while it's very different than mine, I think it's going to get to what we want to talk about today, which is like the rules for the rules. What are the rules?
Yeah. Well, I'm married to a beautiful German man. We love rules in our life. No, just
so I've stayed with you. It is true.
Yeah. No, we don't love rules. Actually, not at all.
Just some guardrails are very important so we don't fly off the handle.
Thank you for that. So my story. So I sold cars to pay for college. If we go way back, I ended up being in automotive for 20 years, fell in love with the industry. I'm a total gearhead. We can talk cars all day. I also ride a Harley. Some of you may know that. And I fell in love with this idea of this continuous learning. I said yes to every opportunity. At one point, I had 5 jobs in 5 years within companies, right? So if I look at my 2 biggest stints, it was about a 20-year stint in 2 big companies. And I built a beautiful career. I became the head of HR at BMW, which I had incredible pride working for that amazing brand, such a recognizable brand. I actually had to do some ego releases after I left, when people didn't know the company that you were working for. And actually even more so when I launched my own. I was like, who am I if I'm not working for this big company? And that was an interesting one. But I said yes to every opportunity. I was a salesperson, and I loved selling, and I loved learning, and I loved growing, and I loved talking about how we generate revenue and profit. And so I put myself out there in every single situation that I could. And part of it was strategic, and part of it was not. It wasn't like I am going to rub elbows with all these incredible leaders. No, if I went to a meeting and there would be thousands of people, and then on stage, right? General Motors and BMW, 125,000 employees, both.
Right.
These were big networks that I was building. I would see someone on stage or see someone in a smaller, intimate presentation, and I'd be like, that was super interesting. I want to learn more about this person. I would email them afterwards, and I would say, hey, you really inspired me today. Would you ever be open for a quick coffee chat? And that's how I built my network. And again, it was
so brilliant. And it takes some courage to do that, right?
Yeah. Well, then fast forward, when I was in the C-suite I used to love when people would do that with me, but
Right.
so few
Right.
people always are worried that they're wasting your time or that you're too busy. And if they're too busy, that's okay. They're not my people. Maybe we'll cross paths another time. Like I never took offense to it, but every single time they said yes. I never had a leader say no. And then I would just talk with them about their career and how they built it and their strategy and talk to me about the business and what's keeping you up at night. And here's what I'm working on. How could I support? And I mean, I was low level, like marketing, not intern, but like marketing coordinator. Right. I'm talking to some of these big dogs. And it was interesting because to this day, these people are still in my life and still in my network.
Of course. Right.
And it opened doors. So then again, I was focused on how am I showing up? Am I showing up hopefully smart? Again, my own battle.
I know. Always smart.
Thank you. It actually is one of my gremlins that, I didn't always feel smart. Thank you. Growing up at, school wasn't really my thing. And I didn't always do well on tests. And I used to feel like I'm not smart enough. And it carried with me for a long time. It did very well in college. But anyway,
maybe that's another topic for one of these.
That's for sure another topic. Right? So I said yes to every opportunity. They threw me in HR. I didn't know how to spell it. I was like, I don't know. Like I had never interacted with HR at this point. This was probably 10, 12 years into my career that BMW said, we think this would be a cool job for you. And
okay, I don't think I know this part of the story. I mean, I know we've talked about this a million times, but I don't know if I've actually heard it in this level.
Yeah. So I was in sales and marketing. I ran different programs and that was what I did. And so when they said HR, I laughed because again, I had never applied for a job officially. I'd never met anyone in HR. And the only time I met HR was every year at benefits, signing up for my benefits. That was all I knew about HR. So I was like, okay, why not? Because I say yes. And I'm a learner. Right. I want to grow every single day. So I said yes to that opportunity and it changed my life. I then spent the last decade of my career in that space and really believe that I found my purpose, which is to help people unlock their potential. Fast forward, I became a chief people officer. I left BMW. I went to a few other companies. One company didn't work out and it was just super interesting. Two companies, actually. One was a values conflict and one, the CEO didn't know what to do with me because I am such a people-led, people-centered business leader that it was, intimidated, or I'm not sure what the word is, but it doesn't matter. That situation happened.
There was friction.
There was some friction. I don't know if I would even call it friction. It was just discomfort more on his side than mine. Anyway, so I decided to take this leap and start this company because I saw people struggle with three things in my HR function. They struggle with networking. That's what we're talking about today. They struggle with storytelling, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. And they struggled with negotiating. Yeah. And I'm on this mission to do my part to close the gender and racial pay gap. And I am so excited and so proud about what I've built. But I never thought in my 30-year corporate career that I would be building a company. And again, I didn't, if we come back to networking for a moment, I did a beautiful job networking inside these companies. When I left BMW after this 20-year career, I was sitting in the Empire State Building and I'm like, there is 10 million people around me with 10 million jobs. Where have I been? Because I was raising babies and I hadn't have time to network outside. That said, today's world looks very, very different. And when I realized, I need to build community, it became more and more real when I built this company and this community that I've built and now teach other people how to build is game changing.
It's game changing. I had that executive coach that I talked about, that helped me really exit and blow things up and arrive here today. She said, you got to write this stuff down. You have to write down how you do these things. And I just kept thinking, I'm never going to write it down. Why do I need to write it down? I'm always going to. And here we are, and we've written it down and we're talking about it live. And it's how we make impact, because at the end of the day, for me, and I know this is for you too, like how can we impact people in a way that changes their course forward, that changes how they feel about something, that lets them see something that they could not see before, that makes them know that they matter.
It's such it's just a story. I want to just say this briefly. When I was intentionally building my outreach strategy, if you will. So you talked a little bit about LinkedIn. I started to build this company without a clue how to build a company. Not a clue. I just started posting on LinkedIn, thought leadership. I'm like, I'm going to post every day and I'm going to engage and I'm going to meet new friends. I did all of the above. But when I got more intentional about it, I sat down with a business coach and I tracked my outreach. So I'll give you these stats, which I think are really powerful and people would be shocked by. I reached out in a 6-month period to 1,000 people. Those people were people who engaged in my post, who commented, who liked, who came inbound, connected with me, maybe looked at my profile. And I would reach out to them and thank them for engaging, or thanks for being in my network. If you ever want to share stories, let me know. It was very low-lived, very simple. And I reached out to 1,000 people. 680 replied. That is a very nice statistic. And that's 350 beautiful. To 380 said yes to a coffee. So in that 6-month period, I was meeting 20 new people-ish a week. And I recognize that if you are in a corporate role, that's probably a bit extreme. But if you're in a corporate role and you want to get the heck out of that corporate role, networking is your number one thing to be focused on.
And people start it when they're desperate, when they actually care, right? When it matters. And that's the point, I think, of what we're talking about today, and we'll be talking about ongoing, is that this is something you have to do consistently and you enjoy it. I enjoy it. I mean, it gives us energy. I love it. But you have to do it all the time. It's not just about when you're thinking about changing or you lose your job, because then it feels, I hate this word and I'm sorry, I'm going to use it, inauthentic. It just feels inauthentic. So it's about the consistency and the constant conversation and shooting the shit with people and building deeper relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an interesting segue. I want to understand from your perspective, what do you think the biggest mistake is that people make when networking?
Exactly what I just said. Is it's not consistent. They don't follow up.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's probably they don't follow up. They don't follow up. They don't follow up, because that takes a bit of courage. I met you at the Sonoran Social held by Ricky and Melissa Glick at the Global Ambassador in Scottsdale. We didn't get a chance to talk more than 30 seconds, but I would love to learn more about what you do. Thank you so much for holding the event. Here's my link. Let's go. Yeah. And that doesn't happen very often. And you said something about your journey, which I think is really important, which is this. It's like, thank them, let them know where you met them, and send them a link so that you're following through on getting the meeting. Because
immediately after, because you'll forget where you met them. If you get a whole bunch of connection requests and you say yes, and you don't know how this person met you,
no clue.
Add a note. So I think there's 2 different ways to do that. If you're on your laptop versus your phone, sometimes I don't think you can do it on your phone, but immediately accept the request, show the person your QR code, which, by the way, if people don't know where that is, you can easily grab it from LinkedIn. You just click on the search bar and there's your QR code on the top right. The person can take a picture of it, scan it, immediately link with you. And then you just send them a quick note, great meeting you at today's event or the Sonoran Social event, so you don't forget. But so I'm going to talk about what I think is the 2 big mistakes that people make. When you say follow up, it is follow up afterwards. Let's talk more.
Right.
But there's also this part of, I meet still today 20 new people a week. The amount of people that I talk to for free that don't then circle back with me to tell me, was that advice helpful? Or was that something I implemented? Or KL, thank you. So,
or thank you. Just thank you.
Number 1. Right. Number 2, your advice was really interesting. I ended up taking a different pivot and this is what happened. And I think there's a reason why people don't do that. The thank you, I can't ever explain that. That's one that's just, I'm sorry, that's just basic. But the reason they don't circle back to say, even if they said thank you, to tell you what happened is people always have said this to me my entire career. I know you're so busy. I know you're so busy.
You're so
I don't
busy.
want to take too much time. So you're already apologizing before you walk in the room. And that is the biggest mistake people make when networking. I spoke to an amazing young woman yesterday who I met at an event last Friday. And I said, stop apologizing.
Yeah.
Before you ask a question, you apologize. Why are we apologizing?
Right.
And we actually dug into where that came from. So interesting. We did a little bit of coaching on it, but it is a big mistake because they're already giving you their time, and it just diminishes your, this is an eye-to-eye conversation. I don't care what level you are, what level they are. This is an eye-to-eye conversation. Let's just have a great conversation.
Right.
You don't have to apologize for that. And they are not more important than you. We're talking about shooting the shit in a skirt, but we all put our pants on the same way. And I think the moment that you have these people on this pedestal, I think it's actually
it changes the dynamic. You're already creating a dynamic that doesn't need to be there. I agree with you. I took a class years ago. There's somebody offered it when I was in my agency life, and she called it Sorry, Not Sorry. And it was the greatest thing ever, because it was stop apologizing for taking people's time. You're not taking their time. If they've offered something, you're actually not taking their time if you're following up. But also the words that we use, right? I just wanted to follow up. I'm following up. We met at the Sonoran Social. Here's my link. Let's get together. That's it. I want to add one more mistake, and then I think we should get to the rules of connection. I'm also watching the time because you and I can go. And we
do every day.
Companies we've got to run. The other thing is, I think people are afraid to go first. Go first. And what I mean by that, and we'll talk about that in the rules of connection, is that when you walk into the room, be the icebreaker. Just walk up and start shaking hands and kissing babies. Because I have been to plenty of events where everybody just stands around and waits for somebody to introduce themselves. And as soon as you do it, people come. They come.
Yeah.
It changes the energy. It shifts. Everybody suddenly feels comfortable.
Yeah.
So I always go first.
Yeah.
Always.
I often do, but what I also do is, like, the people who are sitting in the wings, I pull them in. Come on, come do the conversation. I'm Kale. This is Ricky. Tell us about you. And I bring them in. I stop that conversation and I bring them in, because you can see them sort of standing and a little bit uncomfortable. Like, get in here. This is, for everyone. Absolutely. I think it's being conscious about the people around you in addition to going first. So you mentioned the 6 rules of connection. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about framework. This is where, no matter where you are in your networking journey, it doesn't matter, because you're here now and we are going to help you elevate it. So get out your pen and paper, and Ricky, you go first.
I'm going to go first.
What's rule number 1?
I'm going to go first. Rule number 1, prepare with purpose, right? This is really important. Know what you want, whether that's a conversation, a phone number, a meeting, a job, whatever. Know what you want before you walk in the room. And Kale, I know we talk about this a lot. It's about knowing your talent reel. I call it the elevator pitch. You call it the talent reel. And we've been talking about that throughout this entire thing.
We talked about this earlier, the 3 things that people struggle with. Storytelling is one of them. And actually, you can't really be great at networking until you get your story right. So it's flip that. When someone says, tell me about yourself, you will get asked that question a million times in your life. Sometimes they'll ask, tell me what you do. And I hate that question, but tell me about you. Tell me something good. Tell me something you're excited about is a far better way to open that door, because maybe someone feels ashamed because they're not working or they were laid off. Like, there's better ways to do that. Your talent reel, I'm going to give you 3 really quick tips on how to build that. You ask yourself these 3 questions. What do I love? When I mean love, light your fire, love. Second thing is, what am I really good at? And I mean, hands tied behind your back, eyes closed, innately good at. And how do you want to impact the world? You can also ask yourself, what does the world need? But really, how do I want to impact the world? So answering those 3 questions is the baseline for your talent reel. When I ask people those questions, do you want to know what they usually say? They regurgitate their resume.
Yeah.
I don't care about your resume. I asked you to tell me about you. So figure out how to tell your story, because that's part of the preparation foundation.
And I think, okay, so then the second rule is go first. I know you're all going to find that surprising, but Cal, I think you bring up something really interesting. Introduce yourself, extend your hand, make eye contact, put your phone in your pocket. I always have a Kleenex. That's a different story. We can talk about that another time too, as I'm turning into my mother. But I think it's really important that you have in your head those 3 questions to ask somebody in person even. Right? Think about it from that perspective. That is a wonderful icebreaker. Although I do have to tell you a quick story about this week that is very funny. Melissa and I were getting ready for the Sonoran Social on Monday, and we have this inflatable cactus. His name is Carl. And this guy walked up to us and said, you ladies are not going to believe this, but I'm on a scavenger hunt. And number 3 on my scavenger hunt is a brunette with a blow up cactus. I just thought he went first. He made the introduction and we sat and talked with him for probably about 15 minutes. He was darling. It was a hilarious conversation. We got to know this guy, and then he went on his merry way, and we had our event to host and all of that. But there is a lot of merit in going first and knowing your script a little bit, right? Being prepared, back to number 1, is really important.
I love it. Well, he may or may not have been trying to pick you up, but that is so.
That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
I love it. It is very relevant to the story. So, okay, step number 3: dress to be remembered. I say this at the risk of sounding shallow. This is not what this is meant to be, because if you are going to an in real life event, or you're in an event where there's 1 million people on a Zoom, you want to find a way to be remembered. So whatever that is from a distinctive standpoint, you can ask Melanie Littman, who is a dear friend, who is a stylist, Estelle Winsett.
Eileen Nebhat also.
Right. Really showing up with something that makes you distinct. Ricky, you've told this story before about a conference that you went to where you didn't have a speaking role. You were just a participant, and you wore a red jacket and leopard shoes. And everyone that you met subsequently after that event, throughout that event, were like, oh, you're the one in the red shoes or the red blazer and leopard. Don't underestimate something distinctive, whether it's a bright red lip, whether it is a fancy pair of shoes, whether it's something, a bag.
And this is for men and women, not just women. I know we said women on our description, but really this is for everybody. Like, think about what you're putting on, because 70% of communication is nonverbal, whether you like it or not. It's a great stat, right?
Very interesting. So that's sort of the initial part, right? It's within your control how you dress, how you show up. You may not even have to say anything, but if you then are saying something, make sure that you have your story down. And then I would say also use your tools, right? So I showed you where to get your LinkedIn QR code. Don't be shy to ask it. And I can't tell you how many events I go to where they don't know how to find their QR code. You can show them something new and they'll remember you for that. I don't know if today we use business cards. I never ordered business cards when I launched my company. I use .com. Whatever works, just be really intentional about the tools that you have. And one of those tools is, how can I support you? And is there anyone that I can introduce you to? Or as they're telling you their story, like, oh, I think it'd be interesting. I have this friend who has this company, or I have this friend, maybe you'd want to meet them. Give back. I think that's something that's also really important.
Really, really, really important. Building relationships and community is not about taking. It's not about expanding your network. It's about that give and take, the push and pull, right? I always offer it up, and I'm honored when people offer it to me.
Yeah.
I'm surprised and delighted every single time.
Yeah. It's funny. Between 60 and 70% of my business comes from referrals and repeat clients. Many of these referrals are total strangers.
Yeah.
That maybe I met once, maybe I never met.
Right.
That is incredible. And that it means the world. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5,
Number 5. Okay, you guys, these are the two most important rules, and I don't think they're going to surprise you, but I'm going to say it out loud. Follow up every single time. Send the note, make the call, stop apologizing, immediately send the DM. Great meeting you at X event. Here's my calendar link, and get that one-on-one scheduled, because that one-on-one may not be your next job, but maybe that person will get you to your next job. Maybe that person will connect you to my Kale Shaw, right? You never know. And every engagement creates opportunity. Doesn't matter. It does matter what that opportunity is, but you don't know if you're tied to the outcome.
Yeah.
You're missing the point.
And sorry, I have to plug this. You need a calendar link, an electronic calendar link.
You do.
You know how many times you go back and forth? You will also miss the opportunity if you don't grab it right away. If you say, well, I'm available next Wednesday at 11 o'clock, and then Thursday I'm available at 2 o'clock, and then they have to go check their calendar. No, you send a calendar link, you block your times that you're not available in that calendar link, and you keep these times open for people. 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. Give yourself a 15-minute buffer in between. It takes literally 5 minutes to set up. Don't underestimate that. It's huge, huge, huge.
It is huge. Okay. And the last one, and then I promise we're wrapping up. Play the long game. My number one core value is build relationships, relationship builder, however you want to frame it up. Keep showing up, keep sending the note. I saw this article. It reminded me of you. I thought about you, just wanted to reach out and say, hello, how are you doing? By the way, I'm changing jobs. By the way, that thing you said when we were on our call made an impact. I'm going to tell you right now, I talk to Kale every day. I sent her a text yesterday and said, this recommendation changed my life.
By the way, I sent you probably 5 or more memes or TikTok or Instagram.
But I listened.
You finally listened, because but that's how it works. It's so rich. So those are your rules for engagement. I hope you find them helpful. And I wanted to also, just as we wrap up, we talk every day. We've said this before. And when we do, we both walk away with something valuable, whether it be a parenting tip, whether it be if you have sweaty armpits, maybe we need to talk about deo and a better deo that doesn't make your armpits sweaty. We talk about travel and where we should go and what we should do. We talk about game-changing, life-changing things. We talk about hormones. We talk about who are you working with? What are you doing? We both, like she said, work with Renee. And then we got to strategize on, okay, here's what I was working on. And this like openness and vulnerability is something that I don't share with everyone in my life. And it's powerful. So all of that to be said, one idea, one word can spark something with you as well. And we want every one of our episodes, we want to leave you with something like that as well, so that in every episode you can walk away with something really powerful and really important. So do you want to leave them with the challenge of the week?
Yes. So reach out to one person. Don't underestimate what that outreach will do, because it can literally change your life. Our ask is that you tell your stories and that you tag us or you message us. We want to hear what you're up to. We want to hear if it's made impact. The world actually needs to hear from you, and so do we. This is how we share. This is how we build. This is how we create deeper relationships, so that everyone can learn and grow together.
And even if it's just Ricky or I that you get connected to, it's a step in the right direction. And we just can't say this enough. One conversation, one yes can literally change your life. Ricky and I met with 16 random strangers that we met online. Totally incredibly. When I tell any of my corporate friends that I'm going to Chicago to share a bed with someone I've never met and 16 other random strangers that I met online, they thought I was out of my mind.
We did it twice, not once. We did it twice. We did it in Chicago and we did it in Nashville, although you and I already knew each other in Nashville.
Yeah, but that I do not underestimate. That is where we met, and that's how our lives were changed, and all the other incredible women that we met. And every one of them doesn't have to be, your best friend, but we are so excited to wrap this up. Thank you so much for spending time with us. You will hear more from us. So please reach out. We want to hear your stories. And until next time, keep showing up, keep connecting, and keep shooting the shit in a skirt or whatever attire works for you.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks.